All right. Someone wanted an someone wanted a easing tutorial. All right. So I made two examples of easing. All right. There are two ways I can explain easing in this type of animation program. All right. And the first type would be straightforward easing, which is like throwing a punch or something or a jab. You know, which is, as I explained last time in one of my tutorials, as lag frames and startup frames. And basically, this is how it will look. Now, I'm gonna go all the way to the beginning. I'm gonna break it down, just a little bit. I'm gonna break it down. So, of course, in order to make 1 second, I have to put as many frames as the animation runs frames per second. So usually it's around 17 to 18 or somewhere around that margin. And this is the stick figure just getting into a pose. All right. But what we want to pay attention to is here. This line right here and these red dots. This will simulate how the stick figure's arms move. Now, as you can see, when the arm goes up, it's the ellipse right here slowly stretches. I did that so that way you can see the movement and how much it will progress as the movement happens. So startup frames are very slow. So you have like little to no movement, and as you go faster, the movement will get more drastic as you go. And then as it ends, this is the end, it'll slow down, going back into no more movement. That's the best way I can explain most of easing. Now, this is just it getting into a pose. When it throws a punch, and in this case I had to move the camera, and it throws a punch, if I can find the frame, once again, you have a slow movement, which is this is the easing part of it, which is the startup frames, into more drastic movement. But for this case, in this case, it's all easy movement. This is startup frames, and then drastic movement. This is it punching or getting ready to punch. This is the punch, and this is the punch slowing down, going back into easing movement. And then of course you put more, frames and movement just to make it, go together all nice and stuff. And the way I would explain this in easy terms is basically easing movement revolves around starting frames and ending frames. For starting frames, you want to make the movement very small and gradually faster as it goes. So imagine it like drawing a small line and then going down the paper and making the line slightly longer with each stroke. And then as you get to the highest point, you want to make that line go back down in smaller strokes. So from smallest to biggest and biggest to smallest when it comes to movement, which in this case is, as I explained it, is from lag frames or the startup frames into the ending frames, which is all lag frames. So that's how I would explain it for just a straightforward punch, and whatever, little movements go in between. Now, for something like a curve, because let's face it, no fighting scene just has a straight line, of course. Of course, there's going to be something like a curving hit or a sword strike of some sort. So, I made this one. Now, I chose to do the legs because the legs are just another form of limb that's very similar to the arms. Pretty much the same concept, but just a different use. So, once again, you want the same amount of frames as the animation runs usually. For this one though, I just made 10 because I just felt like it. Now, for the easing movement, you want it to start slowly, right? But in this case, since it's curving, you want the slow frames to go in a certain direction and then go in a totally different direction at some point. So you have easing movement, which is it starting up, and then as you can see, the red dot, the ellipse gets faster. Boom, dramatic movement. From easing movement, dramatic movement. Then it slows down again into no movement. Then dramatic movement again. And then slow movement. All the way till the end of the actual animation. This is how it looks. There are no effects. There's nothing else. There's nothing on it, but it looks very smooth and looks like it makes sense, despite there being no effects. And effects is usually what I put in my animations. But this is genuinely how you want to do it. So if I was to break it down again, you go from its slowest points, which is the easing movement, the startup frames, and at some point, this is its highest point. Then you make that highest point slow down, and then once again, you make it go into another highest point if you're going to make a combo. This is how you would also genuinely do combos. You would do the exact same thing, but yeah, at some point you'll have slow frames in between. Usually for me, it's around, for this kick, it's about 4, but usually it's around 3. You know, the more lag frames you have in between each move, the longer the move takes to actually go to initiate. I mean, the longer the move takes to actually happen. So that's how I would do it if I was to do a combo. In this case, this counts as a small combo. A kick upwards, a kick downwards, or an axe kick, if you will. But yeah, so you want to start with easing frames. You want to start with the startup frames very slowly. The frame where it does the actual action or hit extremely fast. And then you want it to slow down back into, you want it to go from the fastest to the slowest again. So from slowest to fast, fast to slowest, if you were to do a strike. Yeah, so that's pretty much how you would do it. But as far as a full animation, I could just point out a full-blown animation that implements the same idea. And you know what? I'm going to show some failed attempts at that on some of the parts. As you can see, this is the same part 8 of something, like the one that I recently just put out. It's just that these two are failed versions. I didn't like how they went together at all. So the part of something has the same concept. It has a part of something, and then, I mean, it has an easing frames, but in this case, this is just a dramatic frame altogether. That's how you would simulate very fast movement, but we'll pay attention to this guy. So for his whole body, there are easing frames in every piece of his movement. His entire body is doing easing frames, including the effects. The effects are also doing easy frames. These are the startup frames. All of this, from this to this, is just the startup frames. All of that is startup frames. This is the actual action. This is the highest point. Then you make it slow down again. Boom. That's how you would do easing frames, from the slowest point to the fastest point, back to the slowest point. So in simple terms, you want to make it go slow, fast, slow. That's how I would describe it. That's the best way I can describe it. So yeah, that's it. The next tutorials that I saw were, I believe one was on spear and choreography, and I believe another one was like smoke. So I'm just gonna do both, because why the heck not? I'm gonna make them a separate video, and for the spear one, I might actually make it a whole subject altogether, because the spear has a lot of potential, and smoke as well. Smoke. So I'm gonna upload this one. I'm gonna probably make those ones directly after this one, upload it a day after, or maybe the same night. I don't know, but yeah, this is genuinely how you want to do it. Slow, fast, slow. Starting frame starts slowly. The actual action is supposed to be initiated by a very fast, exaggerated frame. And then after that frame is finished, you want to make that frame slow down again. So slow, fast, slow. That's the only way I can properly explain it.